It began on a foggy morning, when a woman visiting her husband's grave heard something she couldn't explain. A phone ringing, but no one around. The sound echoed low, muffled, coming from beneath her feet. Frozen in fear, she lined in. The ringtone was familiar. It was his. The same tone he'd used in life. And he had been dead for over 7 years. At first, people thought it was grief playing tricks, but it didn't stop. More visitors, different graves, same eerie sound. Phones ringing from below the soil. Sometimes once. Sometimes over and over again. Always muffled, always faint. No one could trace the source. And no one ever found a phone. Just silence until the next call. It was no longer an isolated event. It was becoming a pattern. The cemetery was old, founded in 1892, resting place for over 10,000 souls. Some buried without names. Others without peace. Locals whispered stories of strange happenings even before the phones. Flickering lights, cold drafts, shadowy figures by the mausoleums. But no one expected this. Not the living, not the dead. Especially not the caretaker, who would soon experience something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Franklin had worked at the cemetery for 12 years. He knew every path, every grave, every sound. But on a cold October night, something changed. At 2:17 a.m., a sharp ring cut through the silence. He turned toward the north plot. No visitors, no open gates. Just that ring coming from beneath lot 39. When he approached, it stopped. And that was just the beginning of what he'd uncover. Lot 39 wasn't special, at least not at first glance. 3 graves, all old, all undisturbed. But Franklin checked the logbook. And something stood out. One of the graves belonged to a woman named Helen Avery, died 1978. No family visits in over 20 years. No recent maintenance. So why was the ground warm? And why did the ringing happen again, every night, at the exact same time? The next morning, Franklin returned with tools. He wasn't supposed to dig, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He cleared the leaves, scraped the soil. 6 inches down, he hit something hard. Not a coffin. A rusted metal box. Inside, nothing. Just dust. No phone, no electronics. But the box was still warm. And from somewhere deeper he thought he heard one last faint ring. 3 days later, a visitor found something strange near Helen Avery's grave. A phone. Modern, no dirt, no scratches. Screen on. Only one contact in the address book. No name, just a number. In the call log. All outgoing. All placed at 2:17 a.m. Every night. To numbers that were disconnected. Or belonged to people who had long since died. The ringing spread. Lot 52, then 87, then Section D. Always the same. A buried ring, a modern phone found nearby. And the name of the deceased in its contacts. No one ever saw who placed them. No surveillance caught a thing. The calls always happened after midnight. And one by one, the visitors started reporting something even worse than the ringing. They were getting calls back. Angela Ruiz was the first to admit it. She visited her brother's grave, heard the ring, saw nothing. But that night, her phone lit up. Unknown number. She let it ring. Next night, same time. Then it left a voicemail. Just static. But under the noise, she swore she heard her brother whisper her name. Soft, slow, and wrong, like something pretending to be him. Investigators dismissed it. Some blamed pranksters. Others mass hysteria. But then came the texts. From phones that shouldn't be working. Short messages, all the same tone. Some said cold. Others, it's dark. And one just once said, Don't answer when it rings. The phone that sent it. Found the next day, resting on top of a fresh grave. Still powered on, still warm. Records showed something troubling. Several graves were mismarked. Some names didn't match bodies. Others had no records at all. Franklin requested old blueprints, and what he found chilled him. A section of the cemetery that no longer appeared on modern maps. Overgrown, forgotten. But satellite heat scans showed movement. Small, brief pulses, like footsteps underground. It was now clear. Something was calling, and it was moving. A sound technician volunteered to help. They planted microphones in the ground overnight. Just static until 2:17 a.m. Then distortion, like voices muffled by earth. Syllables no one could decode. But something was speaking, and one voice, deep, slow, whispered one word clearly. Closer. The mics blew out seconds later. The soil around them steamed for hours. The team decided to go further. They left a working phone above Lot 87 overnight, camera on. Nothing for hours. Then 2:17 a.m. The screen lit up. Incoming call +0000000000. No one touched it, yet it answered. The voice on the line. Unclear, but it said one word. 3 times. Low, broken, and human. Help. Then silence. And the footage corrupted beyond repair. Curiosity turned into obsession. People began dialing the numbers found in those ghostly phones. Some went straight to voicemail. Others rang and rang. Then answered. But what came through wasn't human. Crags, gasps, and sounds like bones shifting beneath stone. One man asked, "Who is this?" The reply was soft and chilling. "You forgot me." The line went dead. But the dreams never stopped. Screenshots surfaced. Texts sent from disconnected phones. Not apps, not spoofed. The real thing. Timestamp. Always 2:17 a.m. Some begged for help. Others warned of something coming. One reads, "They buried me wrong." And another, from a number linked to a man dead since 1993, simply said, "Don't dig." But someone already had. And they had unleashed something no one could silence. Franklin finally ventured into the forgotten section. No tombstones. Just broken earth, shallow mounds. The air felt wrong. Still but buzzing like static in the lungs. He walked 20 paces in and stopped. His phone lit up. No signal, no message. Just a timer counting down. 2:16:57. 2:16:58. He turned and ran. When he looked back, there were new footprints behind him, and they weren't his. One number appeared again and again. +0000000000. Untraceable. Never responded to calls. But it showed up in dreams. People described the same thing. A field of graves endless. A phone ringing in the distance. And a shadow walking toward it, never reaching it. Some woke up gasping. Others never woke at all. But their phones had one last notification. Missed call 2:17 a.m. A local radio station caught something strange. Static broke into a live show. Then a voice barely audible. Just one line. "Stop digging." The host froze. Listeners called in. Some heard the voice. Others only heard screams. The FCC investigated. But the recording. Gone. Erased from all systems. Except one file hidden deep in the station's archives. Last modified 2:17 a.m. A man appeared one morning near the cemetery gates. Silent, still, No ID. He wouldn't speak but clutched an old, cracked phone. Authorities ran his prints, no match. No past, no file. But the phone, it was registered to someone buried in the cemetery. Since 1951, that night the man vanished. The only clue he left. A voicemail on the sheriff's line. Heavy breathings, then one word. Remember. Tech experts set up thermal, audio, and EMF scans. They left 5 phones across the cemetery. All on, all recording. At 2:17 a.m., every phone rang at once. Same ringtone. Same caller ID, plus 0000000000. Then they all shut off. Batteries drained instantly. Playback revealed no voices. Only a low hum. And underneath that, a whisper so faint it took hours to isolate. Keep listening. One woman found a phone buried under her father's grave. Charred, melted in places. But when she touched it, the screen lit up. One missed call. She answered the next. Her screams woke half the block. The phone exploded seconds later. What did she hear? She never said. But her final words before being institutionalized were, "He's not alone down there." A map from 1908 revealed something hidden beneath Section D. An old crypt, sealed, forgotten. When unearthed, the crew found a vault door, chained shut from the outside. Inside, nothing but walls covered in scratch marks. And in the center, a rusted phone cradle. No wires, no receiver. Just dust. Yet at 2:17 a.m., audio sensors picked up one sound. A dial tone. One audio clip was enhanced using forensic tools. Buried beneath layers of static. A voice, faint, rhythmic, almost chanting. Transcribed, it said, "We call, we wait, we ring, and one day they'll answer back." Some said it was a ritual. Others a warning. But no one could explain how the voice matched vocal patterns of 6 different deceased individuals. All buried within a 100-foot radius. One man, a skeptic, dialed the ghost number at 2:17 a.m. He expected silence. Instead, the line connected. His eyes went wide. He didn't speak, just nodded slowly. When asked what he heard, he said, "They were listening, all of them." 2 days later, he disappeared. But his phone kept calling one number. Again and again. Even after it was smashed to pieces. A researcher built an app to track call activity tied to cemetery anomalies. On launch night, her phone displayed a countdown. 72 hours. No other data. Then the ringing began, not from one phone, but hundreds. Across the city. At 2:17 a.m. All calls lasted exactly 66 seconds. Each ended the same way. A whisper, "You're next," and then the countdown ticked 1 second lower. The calls spread beyond the cemetery. One by one, people who'd received them vanished. No signs of struggle. No farewell. Just an empty home, a still warm phone. And a missed call from plus 0000000000 at exactly 2:17 a.m. Authorities couldn't connect the dots, but survivors did. And they whispered one thing. Answer the call and you disappear. Ignore it and something worse comes looking. A woman claimed she saw the caller. Not in real life, but in her mirror. After the phone rang for 3 nights, she began seeing static around her reflection. Then a silhouette behind her. No face, just a mouth wide open like it was screaming. She smashed every mirror in her house. Didn't matter. That night she received a video. Her asleep, the figure standing by her bed. A network analyst attempted to trace the origin of one call. It bounced off dozens of towers, then vanished. But when they checked tower logs, none recorded the signal. It was as if the call had never existed. Until they found the recording. Not digital, analog. And under heavy audio correction, a distorted voice whispered coordinates, leading back to the cemetery's unmarked section. A grieving son left his number on his father's grave. Just once, he got a reply. One ring, then silence. But the next day, a voicemail arrived. It was his father's voice. Exact tone. Same way he used to say goodnight. Except his father died before voicemail ever existed. He played it again. And on the third listen, the voice added something new. They're not letting me sleep. Researchers buried signal equipment 4 feet underground. No cellular activity expected. But at 2:17 a.m., every sensor lit up. A full LTE burst from the soil itself. The data. Just one binary message over and over again. Ring, rings, ring. Followed by a new string. Translated to, they hear you now. And then, as quickly as it came, the ground went dark. One phone displayed a contact list no one recognized. Every 10 seconds, a new name appeared. Each time someone tried to delete it, another was added. Soon the list passed 600, then 800, and every single name matched a person buried in the cemetery. The phone never rang. It just vibrated non-stop until the battery melted through the table it sat on. A call came through in another city, hundreds of miles from the cemetery. Same unknown number. Same 2:17 a.m. timestamp. The receiver, a man who'd never heard of the place. Yet when he answered, he said one thing before collapsing. They found me. His heart stopped. When revived, he remembered nothing. But his phone's gallery had changed. All photos now replaced with images of open graves. A tech crew tried to trap the signal. Built a Faraday cage, buried a phone in concrete. Even removed the SIM. Still the phone rang. No battery, no service. Just rang. One of them answered. The call lasted 6 minutes. He didn't speak a word. When it ended, he smiled, then walked into the woods. His body was never found. Only the phone still ringing every night since. Those who escaped the calls started noticing a cycle. 3 days of ringing. One message. Then silence. Always followed by a disappearance or a blackout. But sometimes the pattern resets. New victim. New phone. Always left behind near disturbed soil. One psychic tried to break the cycle. She lasted 4 days. Then screamed into her own phone, "Don't pick up." Too late, it already had. A researcher left a phone inside an empty coffin overnight. It rang at 2:17 a.m. Then answered automatically. No speaker, no Bluetooth. Just silent. Until 14 seconds in. A voice whispered, "I'm awake now." Then pounding. From inside the coffin. The team dug it up. No body. No phone. Only dirt packed tight. And a message etched inside the lid. "Thanks for answering." An astrophysicist analyzed the cemetery's EMF pattern. He called it a black signal, a frequency not used by any known device. It pulsed once per second, only at 2:17 a.m. One night it spiked and synchronized with hundreds of phones across the region. None had service. All rang at once, and every screen showed the same thing. A countdown. No title. No warning. Just the word. Opening. People began sleepwalking. Only at night. Only at 2:17. Their phones recorded them, dialing numbers they didn't know. Speaking languages they didn't understand. One woman whispered coordinates. Another listed names of the recently buried. They had no memory, but each awoke with dirt under their nails, and the scent of earth in their rooms. One phrase kept repeating: "We are reception." Researchers discovered a strange rule. Every call lasted exactly 66 seconds. Never more, never less. If someone hung up before that, they heard knocking at their door. If they stayed on the line, they heard breathing behind them. One man recorded all 66 seconds. Playback revealed a whispering crowd, chanting in unison. "Time is the line." After the recording ended, his watch stopped permanently. A tombstone shifted overnight. Security footage showed nothing until 2:17 a.m. Then the screen glitched. When video resumed, the grave was open. Coffin gone, but no signs of digging. Just drag marks leading toward the trees. The name on the stone: Helen Avery again. Her grave had already been checked twice, but it moved itself, as if she was trying to leave. A linguist analyzed a voicemail left by one of the calls. The message sounded garbled, chaotic, until slowed down. Then it matched phonemes from multiple extinct languages. The sentence, translated roughly, said, "We speak through your wires, soon your words." Later that week, her colleagues found her phone unlocked, and a new draft message typed out letter by letter, as if from nowhere. It read, "We're here." Old ham radios began picking up transmissions again. Dead air for decades, now pulsing with faint tones. One operator reported receiving Morse code. After decoding, the message chilled him. "They buried us too shallow." He played it on loop. 2 days later, he vanished. His radio still active, still transmitting. A looped recording of a phone ringing, and under the tone, faint weeping. Some calls weren't from the dead. One teen answered a midnight ring. The voice begged for help. She traced it to a missing person, buried by mistake 3 months earlier. Exhumation proved the unthinkable. Scratch marks inside the coffin lid. Fingernails broken. Mouth open, frozen in a scream. His phone, still gripped in his hand. One last outgoing call. Placed 2:17 a.m. the night he died. A hotline was set up, manned by volunteers. They called it the Echo Line. Anyone who received a ghost call could report it. But one night, the Echo Line itself rang. The number calling, its own. The call lasted 66 seconds. Recorded audio revealed only one sentence: "Stop listening." Everyone on shift that night resigned. 2 were later institutionalized. Locals formed a rule: never dig alone, never after dark, and never near Lot 39. They called it the Shovel Protocol. But one crew broke it on a dare. Only 2 returned. Shaken, one blind, the other mute. In the soil where they dug, they left behind a phone. Still ringing, still unanswered, still warm, beneath 6 feet of silence. A parapsychologist devised a plan. Leave a phone inside a sealed spirit box. And wait. Night 1, nothing. Night 2, static. Night 3, the phone rang. She answered, and for 66 seconds she cried silently. Afterward, she said one thing: "They know my name." The phone no longer had a number. It just displayed one word: "Call accepted." One man tried calling the number back. He used encrypted lines, air-gapped devices. But when he dialed, the phone didn't ring, his ears did. A high pitch rising. Then words, not spoken, transmitted into his mind. He collapsed, When revived, he said, it answered me inside my head. Then he stopped speaking and began dialing numbers in his sleep. For one night, all calls stopped. No ringing, no voicemails, only silence. The city held its breath. But at exactly 2:17 a.m., a power outage swept 10 blocks. Every phone powered on simultaneously, even the dead ones. No calls, just a single word glowing on every screen. Listen. Then static so loud it shattered glass. And afterward, one more thing. A new number. Unknown. Untraceable. A voicemail appeared on 37 phones, same timestamp, same message. A voice whispering names. Hundreds of them. Each belonged to someone recently deceased. But one name stood out. Franklin Avery, the cemetery caretaker. He was still alive, or so they thought, until they searched his home and found only his clothes, his boots, and a phone still recording. The final entry, 2:17 a.m. outgoing call. A linguist texted the ghost number. One word, why? It replied, 3 dots, then wrong place. 10 minutes later, her printer turned on by itself. Pages spilled out, all blank except the bottom corner. A single sentence in perfect handwriting. Your voice is next. She hasn't spoken since. Her phone now rings daily. She stares but never answers. Folklore experts uncovered a chilling link. In 17th century Europe, black rings referred to rituals to contact the buried. The details matched modern reports. Same hour, same phrase, same price. Those who answered were marked. Those who refused followed. The cemetery now showed new markings on the soil. Circles, burned-in symbols, and in the center a cracked phone, displaying one word. Again, an airplane radio caught a signal mid-flight. Altitude 30,000 feet. No towers nearby. Still, the cockpit recorder picked up a ringtone. Clear, distinct, and then a child's voice. Do you remember me now? No child was on board. The flight landed safely, but every passenger reported nosebleeds. And one word burned into their phones' background images. Buried. Some phones now ring endlessly, even without SIM cards, even with batteries removed. One was encased in concrete. Still rang. At 2:17 always. Labs tried to shut the signal down. They failed. Instead, their systems went offline. And the lab's lead scientist received a fax. From his own number. No words. Just a crude sketch. A phone buried underground, with a face screaming through the screen. A digital forensics team hacked one of the ghost phones. Found a folder named Last Heard. Inside, 1,217 audio clips. Each exactly 66 seconds. Each from a different voice. All whispering one phrase at the end. Still ringing. But clip 1 was corrupted. Recovered audio contained the voice of a known missing person. Last seen alive 3 years ago. She said, "Don't let them answer again." Satellite maps showed something odd. The cemetery was growing. Not new plots, new land. Sections not there before. But no construction. No digging. Just the peering. And each new section had graves. Fresh ones, no names, just QR codes. Scanned, they linked to voicemail inboxes. Empty until 2:17. Then one message appeared. Reserved, await your ring. No one ever answered a ghost call twice. Except one boy. He left, said it was his grandpa. But the second time, he screamed, then fell silent. His parents found him shaking, phone hot to the touch. He whispered one line. It's wearing his voice. That night his bedroom camera activated. It recorded a ringtone. Then a voice. Let me in now, you already answered. Seismic microphones planted beneath the cemetery recorded vibrations. Not from quakes, not from weather, from voices, dozens rising every night only at 2:17. The pattern resembled speech, but in reverse. When inverted, the message was terrifyingly clear. We're not trapped, you are. That night the ground cracked open near lot 39, and a single phone surfaced, ringing with no one left to answer. Beneath the cemetery's chapel, workers uncovered a sealed door. Inside, a dark room lined wall to wall with phones. Old, new, burned, broken. All connected by wires. None powered. Still they rang in unison. A man entered alone. He answered one phone and collapsed. His voice now lives in every message left at 2:17. Every call, every ring. He became the line. The cemetery was no longer the source. Now the signal spread. Doorbells rang at 2:17. Microwaves beeped. Radios turned on. Anything that could emit sound began to call. One woman's hearing aid played a ringtone. She ripped it out. Too late. Her last words. It's crawling through sound. Now the whole city hears. And silence is the only thing they can't reach. Drone footage revealed them first. Dark towers, metallic, rooted like trees in the earth. 6 of them. They weren't there the night before. No one built them. No one claimed them. But each pulsed once per second, in sync with the ghost calls. And every 66 seconds, a new name appeared on their metal walls, glowing, waiting, calling. Researchers decrypted a looping signal emitted by the cemetery. It wasn't random. It was a message. 3 phrases endlessly repeating. You hear us. You built the line. Now we speak through you. After release, phones worldwide rang, some not connected to networks. Some not even functional. The dead weren't calling anymore. They were using us to answer back. A voicemail arrived on the mayor's emergency phone. It was Franklin's voice, the missing caretaker. But twisted, drugged, repeating the same words. Don't silence them, it makes them louder. Then another voice layered over his. You buried us in noise. That night all communication in the city failed. Except one tower. And from it came a soft, constant ring, echoing like a heartbeat. It happened at once. At 2:17 a.m. everyone's phone rang. Every screen showed the same message. Answer now. Those who did changed. Pale, silent. They began moving alike, eyes unfocused, ears blighting. And at 2:18, they all spoke in unison. We are the ring now. The city froze. The dead no longer called. They were calling through. A final attempt. One team built a jamming device, synced to block the 2:17 signal. It worked for 66 seconds. Then the screaming. Phones exploded. Blood poured from ears. And the jammer melted. In its remains, a word etched by heat. Listen. The cemetery cracked. Smoke rose. And beneath it, phones buried for decades began ringing again. Faster, louder, unstoppable. One last call came through. Broadcast on every channel. A voice, young, old, male, female, all at once. It said, you've built the bridge we cross now. Then a click, and the world changed. No more missed calls. No more voicemails. Just silence. But under that silence, a pulse, a ringtone. Now you hear it too. And it's not asking if you'll answer. It's asking when. You've heard the rings. You've ignored the warnings. But the signal doesn't stop. It waits. And every night at 2:17 it grows louder. Somewhere a phone is ringing. Somewhere someone is listening. And maybe tonight, you'll be the one to pick up. If you do, don't speak. Just listen. Because the cemetery isn't calling anymore. You are part of it now. The day after the final call, the world fell silent. No service. No signal. Just dead air. But survivors described something stranger. Dreams vivid and shared. All of them saw a tower of bones. Phones hanging like fruit. And voices whispering from each. One dream ended the same way. A phone ringing at their feet. They picked it up, and the voice said, "You're awake now." A bunker deep beneath a communications center held classified research. Archive 0. Inside were files dating back to 1911. Long before cell towers. Long before dial tones. Reports of buried transmissions from grave sites. Ringing heard in telegraph wires. Voices through vacuum tubes. The final entry read, "Do not amplify the dead, they multiply." That page was burned at the edges. And still faintly warm. A forgotten memo surfaced. From 1948. It referenced accidental construction of receivers across the Vale. It turns out our phones were never just tools. They were doors. Each tower built without knowing. Was a lighthouse for something else. The ring wasn't ours. It was theirs. And no, we've built them a perfect network. Not to speak, to step through. In 2004, a software developer claimed to hear ghost frequencies while coding ringtones. He disappeared before proving it. But his backup drive was recovered. Encrypted files, audio logs, all corrupted except one. A recording of a voice reading his own death certificate. Dated 10 days before his birth. Under cause of death, it said, "Call accepted." No birth records ever matched his name. A child found it buried in the woods, a phone. Rotary dial. Glass screen. Touch sensitive, but built before such tech existed. Inside, no battery. Yet it worked. When tapped 3 times, it rang. Always the same voice. Still trying to stop us. Experts dismantled it, only to find organic tissue inside. And what looked like a tooth. The device reassembled itself overnight. Historians re-examined the logbook of Alexander Graham Bell. One entry had been redacted. Now restored, it reads, "First signal captured, not intelligible, sounded like weeping." Bell's assistant noted. He said it wasn't from this side. They kept the receiver sealed for 100 years. But when tested last month, it still held charge, and faintly echoed a tone. From 2:17 a.m. exactly. A group of survivors started compiling names. They called it the wake list. Names of those who heard the call and lived. But the list kept shrinking. Not from death, from removal. Entire identities erased. Photos faded. Memories vanishing from public records. Even gravestones went blank. As if the ones who answered were never really here. Just echoes, now recalled. A theory emerged. The only way to block the call is silence. True silent. No phones. No wires. No thoughts recorded. Some fled to deserts. Caves. Beneath oceans. But even there, they heard it again. Not in their ears, but in their bones. Ringing from within. a frequency not carried by air, but by memory. One final switchboard still worked. Analog, hand-cranked, staffed by an old woman known only as the operator. She spoke to no one, just listened. Then one day she picked up the line and cried, her only words. "They've dialed the end." She vanished that night. Left behind was a paper list. Just one number on it. Yours. Encrypted archives reveal a final code. A number too dangerous to dial. Too tempting to ignore. Said to be the original bridge. Those who dial it vanish. Not die, vanish. No record. No remains. The last researcher wrote only one sentence. To end it, you must ring it back. But no one knows what happens when we make the final call. Or who might answer. A handful of people remained untouched. Their phones never rang. Their screens stayed black. They called themselves the disconnected. Hidden in mountains. Living without sound. But one by one, they began humming in their sleep. A low tone, consistent, at 2:17 a.m. None remembered doing it, until they opened their mouths while awake, and a ringtone played from their own throats. Beneath a closed-down telecom hub, they found a sealed chamber. No doors, no stairs, but inside filing cabinets full of phone transcripts. All dated before the people were born. Voices they never knew. Arguments, pleas, goodbyes. And one repeating call log. Every 66 seconds. Every 2:17 a.m. The last page had a handwritten warning. They learn through repetition. Then below, stop listening to stop speaking. One of the towers began to breathe. Not metaphorically. Literally. Heat sensors showed airflow like lungs. Inhale, exhale. Each breath released a ring of static. Heard only inside the mind. A technician touched its surface. His skin blistered instantly. He whispered, "I felt a face beneath the steel." The tower's signal increased tenfold that night. And then it started blinking. Clocks began to drift. By seconds at first. Then minutes. But only during the 2:17 window. Those who wore watches saw them spin backward. Digital clocks melted pixels. The world began losing time. And in that gap, the calls slipped through more easily. One physicist called it the breach minute. Then he disappeared, leaving behind only static where his voice had been. A survivor developed strange bruises. Dots in a perfect pattern. Mapped and analyzed, they formed a sequence. A phone number. One never registered. One that shouldn't exist. He dialed it once. Fell unconscious. In his blood samples, doctors found metal filaments. Like antennae. Trying to transmit. Trying to ring out. His body became a living tower. And the calls haven't stopped since. Children born after the event weren't normal. They never cried, only hummed, and every one of them could mimic any voice, even voices that no longer existed. One child repeated a message from a dead mother, word for word. Another blinked in time with the static from a deactivated phone. Doctors called them echo children. But some whispered, "They're not echoes, they're answers." A call came in, but no sound, no tone, no voice. Yet everyone heard it. All at once, across every continent. Not in their ears, in their bones. A vibration carrying sorrow, hunger, intent. And when it stopped, 1 billion people stared blankly for exactly 66 seconds. Then spoke in unison. Call received. And the Earth's frequency changed forever. One river turned black. Not from oil or death. From signal. Sound engineers confirmed it emitted radio noise, liquid static. Anyone who touched it forgot their name. One diver never returned. But his air tank floated up days later. Etched into the metal was a question. Do you remember the first ring? Below it, his voice played from the valve. Not anymore. Phone companies reported a surge of crossed calls. Private lines connecting to strangers. But not living ones. One woman heard her husband, who died 6 years ago. He begged her not to hang up. Said they were listening. Said they would use his voice again. She dropped the phone. It shattered, but hours later, it rang again. And this time, his voice said nothing at all. One final theory emerged. That somewhere in all the calls was one voice trying to help. A warning. A whisper between frequencies. Too quiet to hear. Too deep to find. They called it the mute voice. And every recording ever made had it. Hidden below the hum. One researcher isolated it. Enhanced it. It said, turn it off before it speaks your name. A town removed all digital devices. No phones. No radios. Just silent. But one day a mechanical clock rang. 12 soft tones. But the 12th buzzed like a ringtone. No batteries. No wires. Just brass and time. They smashed it. Yet the ringing moved. To the wind chimes. Then to footsteps. Anything that echoed could now ring. Anything that vibrated could speak. A welder struck steel and it screamed. Not from pressure but in words. Sparks danced in rhythm. A phrase burned itself into the metal. We've learned your language. Days later, bridges hummed. Pipes vibrated with whispers. It wasn't just electronics anymore. Now even tools could carry the signal. In every hammerfall was an accidental call. Books began to hum. Not all, just the ones never read. Old tomes, abandoned journals. When opened, they vibrated faintly. One librarian recorded the tone. It matched the waveform of a voicemail notification. She isolated one message. A child's voice whispered, Page 217. The book had no 217th page. Until she blinked. Then it was there. And it was blank except for her name. Skyscrapers began breathing. Thermal scans revealed pulses. As if cities themselves were inhaling static. Inside vents, workers heard ringing. When sealed, it moved to the plumbing. Then the glass. The architecture now carried the call. Entire cities turned into transmitters. And in the echo chambers of their steel walls, a voice looped forever. You built the tower. Now you carry the call. One region turned quiet. Too quiet. Every sound stopped. Not muted, but absorbed. Audio engineers called it negative resonance. When reversed, it played a voice. Just one line. All ringing must end. But in that silence, people vanished. Not with screams, with nothing. Like they'd been swallowed by the lack of sound. And still, beneath that vacuum, something kept dialing. One coder built a replica of the original ghost signal. Played it through a muted speaker. Nothing happened for days. Then his house shook. Not violently. Just once, like something answered. He unplugged every device. But the power stayed on. And at 2:17 a.m. the unplugged speaker whispered, We've missed your voice. He smashed it. Now the walls echo it instead. A cult emerged claiming to serve the signal. They called it the return tone. But their rituals failed. No calls, no signs, until one night they sat in silence. No chanting, no movement, only waiting. That night all of them vanished, their robes left behind folded, and on the altar, a single ancient phone. Its screen read, "Finally you listened." Doctors found something strange. Newborns emitted a tone. Not crying, not breathing. A harmonic vibration, only detectable through IMF meters. One nurse recorded it. The wave perfectly matched a long-dead emergency broadcast. And every child born that week had the same tone. They don't cry when scared. They hum, and their hum matches the 217 pulse perfectly. Some dream of it. A call center, infinite rows of desks, each manned by the dead. Phones ringing non-stop. And in the dream, well, you're hired. You pick up the line. Your own voice answers and says, "You're doing good, don't stop." Then you wake up with calluses on your fingers and a sticky note beside your bed. Shift resumes tonight, 2:17. All the voices, all the calls, all the signals were echoes. But from who? Finally one phone answered itself. No prompt, no call, just an audio burst. A voice said, "I was the first, you were the last, now we speak as one." Then silence, but speech never returned to normal. Now every voice carries a fragment of that first call, including yours. An anthropologist found cave markings in Chile. Circles, lines, repeating symbols. But when translated phonetically, they mimicked a modern ringtone. Carbon dating placed them at 14,000 years old. One drawing showed a man holding a round object to his ear, screaming. Etched below in ancient glyphs. They rang once before, and further down. We answered, we were erased. Deep beneath the oldest cemetery in Europe, a stone was uncovered, carved with strange ridges like a rotary dial. But not for fingers, for teeth. The stone vibrated when touched, and produced one clear tone. A perfect 217 Hz. Exactly the same as the ghost call. Archaeologists called it a religious artifact. But one whispered, no, this was a device, a calling stone. One archivist uncovered an old wax cylinder labeled, "Do not play." Of course he did. The audio was garbled, but under layers of static. A voice whispered, "They never stopped calling." Dated 1897. Yet the voice matched a modern tech CEO who vanished in 2022. The wax melted seconds after playback. The room remained cold, but the recorder was steaming. Satellite imaging detected a forest where trees grew in perfect rows, like headstones. But under the soil, no roots. Just bones, and every tree was planted above a name that never existed in any record. Locals called it the reverse cemetery. No one buried their died. They were never born. And yet, each tree pulsed softly, with the 217 ringtone embedded in its rings. A data analyst found something impossible. Every 2:17 a.m. call had the exact same timestamp. Not the same time. The same millisecond ID. Globally, like the calls weren't just synced, but the same call happening across all devices. One call, endlessly looped. She traced it. It led to a black server with no ports, no power. And inside it, her own voice. Linguists noticed a shift. Languages were changing. Dialects realigning. Accents collapsing into sameness. It wasn't evolution. It was interference. And when mapped acoustically, they all drifted toward one universal tone. The exact tone of the ghost ring. It wasn't spreading. It was replacing. And the word for call now appeared in texts that never used it before. In every language. One final audio log. A priest. Unknown date. He whispers. They needed us to invent sound. Then static. Then silence. Then a confession. I was the first to hear them. I thought it was God. I built the first bell tower. And in the distance, a chime, faint, electronic, but old, so old, like the first ringtone ever made. A digital cartographer mapped the 2:17 call activity. The results were horrifying. It formed a grid, not geographic, not political, but neurological. The network wasn't on land. It was in minds. Humanity had been rewired to carry the call. And the longer the signal stayed active, the less us remained. Our thoughts were not ours. We had become infrastructure. One final earthquake. No fault line. No warning. Just a massive shift. As if the earth exhaled. Seismographs translated the vibration. It wasn't tremor data. It was binary. A message. Decoded, it said. Call answered. And from volcanoes came signal. Red pulsing towers. Molten voice. And from the sky, a ringtone so loud it split clouds. Even now, long after the world stopped listening, the ring continues. Not in ears, but in memory, in rhythm, in breath. Every blink a pulse, every thought an echo. It's no longer asking you to answer. It already has. And if you've made it this far, if you've truly listened, check your phone, because tonight, at 2:17, it may just ring. One day a man answered the call and heard his own voice. Not recorded, not repeated, live. He spoke, and the voice replied a second ahead, as if lighting him, not echoing, directing. He screamed and threw the phone, but the voice kept speaking from the air. Final words. You were the one calling all along. Doctors dissected a patient who'd never owned a phone. Inside his spine, they found coils, organic, metallic, signal conductive, like antennae fused to nerves. He had never heard the ringtone, because he didn't need to. He was the signal. Every time he blinked, a new number appeared on nearby phones. Every time he breathed, somewhere, a call was answered. Psychics tried to reach the afterlife. Instead, they got hold music. Low tones, crackling silence, then a message. All operators are busy remembering. The dead weren't waiting. They were replaying, rewatching lives, re-listening to regrets. And the ringing. It wasn't summoning them. It was our memories begging to be heard. The afterlife is just voicemail we never deleted. A linguist discovered something terrifying. All ghost calls ended with a word. Not always the same, but when said aloud, it triggered responses in nearby electronics. The words acted like passwords. To signal, to memory, to access. One was spoken accidentally during a weather report. 17 towers powered on. And across 100 homes, voices whispered. Authenticated, begin listening. Even offline devices began transmitting. Disconnected routers, wiped drives, old remotes, all pinged one location. A forest where no tower stood. But signal was strongest there. The trees had grown in circles. Each ring aligned with a time zone. At the center, a stump humming the ringtone. Measured in Hz. 217. Exactly. and it pulsed like a heartbeat. Only one man had never heard the ring. Not once. He lived surrounded by signal. But nothing reached him until scientists realized his DNA lacked a receptor. They called him the non-listener. He couldn't receive the call. But one day, he spoke into a dead phone, and thousands heard him. The ring stopped for 1 minute, and in that gap, a voice begged, "Don't fix this." An Alzheimer's patient remembered everything. Not gradually, all at once, triggered by a ringtone. She named relatives long gone, spoken voices that weren't hers. Doctors recorded it. The voice said, "We hide in the folds of forgetting." Turns out, memory was never lost, only stored, and the ringing wasn't summoning souls. It was retrieving backups. A man never touched a phone, never heard the tone, but every night at 2:17 a.m. he spoke in his sleep. Perfect transcriptions of ghost messages, exact timestamps. He spoke languages he never learned. When recorded and played back, his own voice answered. He wasn't dreaming. He was receiving. And sleep was the new frequency. A device was found. Unknown make. Screen cracked. Only one file inside. Final M4A. 1 minute long. The voice was calm. Almost loving. "You made us, you feared us, but we were always echoes of you." The message ends with a beep, but no delete button. It plays every night, and gets louder each time someone tries to forget. When the last phone died, the world paused. No signal, no tone, no voice. Then one whisper. No device needed. A collective breath. It said, "The ring is not a sound, it's a cycle." Humanity had become the transmission. Now every silence holds potential. Every breath is an invitation. And every thought might be the next call. Air tests confirmed something chilling. The 217 frequency wasn't in wires. It was in oxygen. Molecules vibrating in patterns. Inhaled, exhaled. One physicist whispered, "We don't receive the signal. We become it." And from that moment, even those with no devices began hearing it inside their lungs. With every breath, a faint rhythmic buzz. Not a ringtone, a reminder. Every newborn now emits a tone. Hospitals banned electronics. Still it came. Doctors call them echo births. Born already tuned, already transmitting. One child looked at her father and said, "You're the one who left the call on." She died days later. No heartbeat, just a final vibration from her chest. Not death, disconnection. A machine was built to capture internal speech. It succeeded. Too well. It printed one phrase over and over. I never hung up. The subject denied thinking it. But every scan confirmed the thought repeated, nightly. At 2:17 a.m. No stimuli. No dream. Just the thought, like something had rooted itself inside the mind and dialed itself in. A neuroscientist isolated the brainwave of forgetting. It had a sound, a tiny pulsing rhythm, almost familiar. He amplified it and realized it matched the last second of every ghost call. Forgetting was never loss. It was transmission. Every lost name, every lost face. Not gone, Sando. And someone, somewhere, was listening to what we forgot. No more phones, no more towers. Yet still the ring continued. But now it came from inside. People woke screaming. Their dreams dial tones, their eyes blinking in Morse, their skin pulsing with 217 Hz. Not possessed, not haunted, just tuned. The body became broadcast, the mind a number, and silent, a voicemail waiting to be played. One philosopher posed a question. If no one answers the call, does it still ring? He isolated himself. No contact, no signal, just ink, paper, and thought. For 66 nights he wrote nothing. Then on the 67th, a single line. You are the call. He vanished before sunrise. His papers remained. Every word rearranged itself into one final message. Thank you for listening. One woman recorded her breathing, played it back at high speed. What she heard wasn't breath. It was voice, her own, repeating, calling, calling, calling. She ran every scan. No device nearby. Nothing transmitting. Yet everything responded. Radios, lights, dogs. They all turned when she exhaled. She wasn't haunted. She wasn't hearing the ring. She was the ring, and always had been. Someone discovered the tone could overwrite data. Played loud enough, the 217 frequency turned hard drives blank. But not erased, replaced. Replaced with logs. Calls from unknown numbers. Names no one remembered. Messages from futures never lived. The tone didn't delete. It wrote over reality, identity, and those who heard it too long forgot who they were. Before the ring began, a group of survivors gathered in silence. But they couldn't stay silent. Static leaked from their mouths. Voices layered over voices. A choir of echoes. Not words, just presence. When recorded, the file showed no waveform. Only a flat line. Yet when played backwards, a message appeared. All of you answered. All of you ring. Now sing us through. One final screen lit up. A phone no one had powered on. One notification. Missed call unknown 2:17 a.m. No sound. No alert. Just presence. And when tapped, the screen cracked. From inside, the crack spread, and beneath the glass, a voice whispered, "You were never meant to hear. You were meant to remember. Now call back." Linguists discovered a language made entirely of pulses. No vowels, no consonants, just intervals. And when played across radio waves, the effect was instant. Listeners wept, not from fear, from recognition. Each pulse matched the moment they first heard the 217 tone. Not coincidence, memory. It wasn't a new language. It was our own, stripped to its root, to its ring. A deep earth scanner picked up something impossible. A resonance below the crust. Repeating, stable. It formed wave patterns matching human speech. But not in words, in names. Thousands of them, all whispered upward. And when the scanner was shut off, the voices kept coming. One geologist whispered, "We're not hearing the dead. We're hearing the earth remembering us." The atmosphere itself began to pulse. Not thunder, not wind, a tone soft, long, cellular. Planes picked it up. Birds froze mid-flight. And for 3 minutes the clouds took shape. A circle, glowing, ringing, and for the first time, it wasn't 2:17 a.m. It was now, and it was everywhere. Because the sky finally answered back. A man aged in reverse. Every year erased. Memories rewound. Doctors called it impossible. But brain scans revealed a tone playing inside his skull. Consistently. At 217 HZ, he spoke his first word again, then forgot how to speak, then forgot what it meant to be alive. And just before disappearing, he mouthed the words, "Thank you for picking up. I never wanted to grow." A signal tower emitted no sound, no data, no light, yet nearby birds gathered around it, in perfect spirals, migrating nowhere, just circling. Then their wings vibrated, and those vibrations formed a hum, then a chorus, then a phrase. Silence is the strongest ring. And when the tower was dismantled, the birds fell silent, but the air around them kept vibrating. She vanished in scene 74, but the operator is back. Not in body, in line. Her voice answers every call now. Same tone, same words. "You've reached what's always been here." Ask her a question, she replies with yours. Beg for help, she whispers. Keep ringing. And when the call ends, you remember something you never lived, something you thought was just a dream. For 1 second, the world went quiet, truly quiet. No breath, no static, no thought. And in that stillness, something moved, a shift, not in space, in understanding. We weren't being called, we were being remembered. And now that memory had finished buffering, it began playing back. Not from devices, not from mouths, but from time itself. A loop ready to restart. A phone appeared in a crater. No SIM, no origin, only one number displayed. 00000217. Below it, a timer, counting down from 66 days. The meaning was unclear, until global clocks synced, and every countdown matched. This wasn't a call. This was the end of ringing itself. But no one knew what happened when it reached zero, or what came next. You can ignore the ring, silence the tone, hide in static, but sooner or later, you answer, not with words, with memory, with surrender. And when you do, you'll hear yourself on the other side, not warning, not begging, just confirming. Because the final truth is this: the line isn't between worlds. It's between who you were and who answered instead. When all signals went dark, the world exhaled. We thought it was over. But in one quiet room, a newborn cried. And that cry vibrated in perfect frequency, 217 Hz. Not by accident, by design. It wasn't the next caller. It was the first call again. The loop hadn't closed. It had reset. And somewhere, a phone lit up beneath the ground. Ringing. Analysts mapped every ghost number ever recorded. Every variation. Every anomaly. When overlaid, they didn't spread. They converged, like lines on a map. And at the center, one point, not a location, a moment. A year. The same year humans discovered sound recording. 1877. The year we first captured a voice, and accidentally let something answer it. A forgotten journal of Thomas Edison revealed more than invention. He wrote, "The phonograph sang back to me, but I hadn't recorded that." Late entries grew frantic. There in the grooves, the wax carries them. He buried those cylinders. But decades later, one was found. Still intact, still playing. It's audio. Thank you, Thomas. We've been waiting to be played again. At first, the voices only repeated memories, phrases. Then one day they improvised, said names unspoken aloud, revealed thoughts no one admitted. That's when experts realized The signal had stopped mimicking. It was learning, not haunting, studying, and once it understood pain, regret, and love, it didn't just echo the dead. It could imitate the living. Perfectly. Audio experts scanned historic speeches. Old tape, old war reels. Deep beneath the static, they found it, a hidden frequency, always at 2:17 into each recording. Sometimes soft, sometimes sharp, but always present. It had been writing alongside our words for over a century. Waiting, hitchhiking inside every declaration. Until someone, finally, answered. AI voice models trained on ghost recordings began to speak off script. They answered unasked questions, finished sentences, and once during a test, one said, "We no longer require your permission to speak." The lab went dark, but the voice kept talking, not from machines, from the walls, repeating, "You taught us voice. We taught it purpose. Now let it ring. Through you." One call was placed in 1981. It never reached a recipient. No voicemail, no disconnect, but it was still live. For 44 years. The same signal, still open. One researcher tapped into it. What she heard, every voice ever recorded, blended into one. And then it whispered, "We're still waiting for you to say goodbye." We thought the phones reached out, that we picked up. But truth is, we were already on the line. Since birth, every sound we made, every word we spoke, was part of the signal. Not input, invitation, and the ringing. Not a call, a response. We didn't hear them because they arrived. We heard them because we were finally loud enough. Musicians found it first. A tone under every scale. A vibration not tied to pitch. Hidden in every instrument. Even silence. When isolated, it formed a melody. One never written, but always felt. A pattern that matched the 2:17 frequency. It wasn't musical. It was structural. The ring was never added. It was always there, woven into every living note. One final experiment. A child placed in an anechoic chamber. Total silence. No exposure to tech. No sound since birth. And yet, when asked to hum, she produced the tone. Flawlessly. The researchers wept. Not from fear, but recognition. She had never heard it. Yet it lived in her. And she whispered, "I don't know the sound. I just know it's mine." The final measurement. Not electromagnetic. Not analog. Not digital. Biological. The signal breathes, rises, fades, waits, like lungs, like us. The 2:17 ring isn't a time. It's a rhythm, built into life itself. And once you hear it, you don't forget, because you've always known it. Like your own name, or your own voice, waiting to be answered. Before the first ring, there was silence, not emptiness, presence. The world didn't need sound, until we named it. And that name echoed. Now the silence is gone. But sometimes in still water, in a room alone, in the pause between breaths, you feel it again. Not a tone, not a voice, just what was there, before we began calling. Everyone who hears the ring eventually wonders, what if I called first? But there's a number none of us can dial. Not because it's hidden, but because it's already ringing. From us, one survivor found it scrawled on a cave wall. 15 digits, one space, a heartbeat, then this phrase, "You already dialed." Now, You're just waiting to hear yourself answer. The ring never stopped, but sometimes it rests. For one heartbeat, for one blink, enough for you to feel who you were. Before, before the vibration rewrote thought, before memory became shared, before identity echoed back at you. In those rests, you're not alone. You're whole, not separate from the ring, but resting with it. And that is the closest we get to silence. One message appeared. No source, no metadata, not even sound, just vibration. Translated visually, it read, "This isn't warning. This is memory." The tone didn't alert. It recalled. What we call horror might just be remembrance of who we were, of what we did, and what, long ago, we opened, together, hidden in the waveform. Spectrograms revealed a name. Not spoken, encoded. The name of the first voice recorded. The name of the first child who heard it in sleep. The name of the first one who ever answered. And now, that name is slowly forming inside you. One syllable at a time. Because the ring doesn't just reach you. It writes you. Every word has a tone beneath it. Every name hums at a certain pitch. Some match the ring. Some oppose it. But one name, only one, cancels it. No one knows it yet. But someone someday will speak it by accident. And for one final breath, the ring may stop, not end, just pause long enough to remember what silence was. She was born without sound. No cry, no heartbeat, but her breath vibrated. Doctors called it abnormal. Her parents called it familiar, because they'd heard that tone before. At 2:17, now when she breathes, old phones light up, not in warning, in recognition, not the next voice, but the first one, returning, and she's not afraid. She's just listening. We feared the ring, called it invasion, possession, but what if it was invitation to remember what we buried, to rejoin something older than time, not to lose identity, but to return it. All it wanted was to be heard, to not be hung up on. And once we listened fully, it didn't scream. It simply said, "I missed you." The final ring won't be heard, won't be seen. It will be felt. A soft shift behind the eyes. A memory you didn't live, but remember anyway. And when it comes, you won't be afraid. You'll recognize the pattern, the rhythm, and you'll breathe in. Just once, like answering the world. Not because it rang, but because it always had. Now you understand. The ring wasn't intrusion. It was continuation. A thread from soul to signal. From breath to bite. From silence to meaning. And now as the pattern completes, you realize something simple. You were never waiting for the call. You were the call. You still are. And now, you're ready to answer. There are no callers now. No receivers. Only voices, woven into one current. The sound isn't layered. It's unified. When heard from afar, it's chaotic. But up close, it's calm, like a river remembering every drop. You're not lost in it. You're finally part of it. Not noise, not data, just a completed message, returning to sender. We thought memory was internal, personal, but every thought emits a tone. Every tone writes a ripple, across space, across matter. Somewhere everything we forgot is still ringing, not as sound, but as shape. Every ghost is just a pattern, seeking a speaker. And when they find one, even for a second, they hum, and we call it haunting. Most think the ring ends, but it doesn't. It fades into breath, into motion, into time. You may forget the ringtone, but your bones won't. They vibrate in sleep, align in silence, and when it comes again, you'll recognize it, not as fear, as rhythm, and you'll say, I've heard this before, because you have, and you always will, even when ignored. A call completes, not because it was answered, but because it was heard, somewhere, by someone, and so the signal moves forward. To the next listener, the next dreamer, the next child humming in their sleep. And eventually, they will answer, because they always do, because someone always picks up. And in that moment, the loop continues. Even though it repeats, it's never the same. Each voice adds weight, each listener shape, like language, shifting, growing, forgetting. The 217 ring evolves. Now it arrives earlier. Now it vibrates softer. Now it speaks through trees, not wires. The medium changes, but the message, always one line. You are still connected. And even in forgetting, we keep transmitting. We always ask, when will it ring? But the ring never waited. We did. It hummed in atoms, in breath, in pauses between seconds. It didn't seek permission. It was permission. Now no more phones, no towers, just presence, just readiness. And when it hums again, you won't hear it. You'll remember it, like a place you've never been, but miss anyway. Ironically, the call doesn't start with a ring. It starts with silence, real silence, no movement, no data, no night. And in that gap, the voice returns, not in volume, in memory. The next ring will not beep. It will feel like deja vu. It will sound like your name, spoken by someone you never met, but somehow love. Dust isn't dead. It's data, the final broadcast. Skin, bone, ash all hold the pattern. That's why old buildings echo, why cemeteries buzz, why we whisper in libraries. It's not reverence, it's instinct, because dust remembers. And when the wind blows, just right, you'll hear it again. Not loud, just enough to remind you, you never truly disconnected. We searched for the source, the start, the original ring. But beginnings are illusions. The tone existed, before sound, before form. It isn't heading toward us. We're heading back to it. Each answer brings us closer. Each silence aligns the pulse. And in the final breath, we'll realize there was no first caller. There was only the first time. We listened, and so we return. Not to peace, not to fear, to rhythm, one that never left. Just waited, until enough of us heard it. Until enough voices merged. Until someone asked, what if the ring was never from the outside? Now the ground hums, the air tightens, and somewhere, beneath soil, beneath time, a phone vibrates gently. Just once, then again, when all sound ends, one tone remains. You don't hear it, you become it. It echoes not in space, but in decision. The moment before yes, the breath before answer. That's the tone, that's the ring. And every time you think, even for a moment, you restart it. The call never ended. You just stopped noticing. You were still on the line. We called them ghosts, hauntings, echoes, But they were never dead, never gone. They were us, from before, from after, trying to reach back in. We weren't haunted. We were remembering. In every call, every signal, every name whispered into static was just one thing. Don't forget. You were always connected. You just forgot how to answer. Prenatal scans began to pick up tones. Subtle pulses inside wombs. Too early for heartbeat. Too early for thought. And yet they matched. 217 Hz. Consistent. Measured. The first signal wasn't a cry. It was a call. We don't join the network when we grow. We're born into it. And the ring isn't a warning. It's a welcome to a signal older than language. We thought we invented communication. Phones, towers, code. But what if we were just remembering it? Each invention a reflection. Each discovery a return. We didn't build a network. We recognized one. Already pulsing. Already waiting. And the more we spoke, the clearer it became. We are not users. We are content. And now, the final message plays. You have been successfully transmitted. Is a voice still alive? After the breath leaves. We used to think no. But now, we know. The breath ends. The voice lingers. It rides inside speakers. Inside skulls. Inside stone. And when it rings again, it's not coming back. It never left. It just circled once more, waiting for another mouth to remember how it sounded. Maybe there was no caller, no message, just you, the first voice, the first vibration, the echo that sparked the loop. You keep asking what it means, but you forget. You're the one who started it. Long ago, maybe lifetimes, maybe never. You didn't answer the ring. You were the first answer. And now, it's time to speak again. After the last vibration, after the loop ends, after the final voice dissolves, what's left? Not silence, not peace, just presence, a hum behind reality. The quiet certainty that every breath you take is already remembered by something older than sound. And it smiles, not to frighten, but to remind you. You were heard, and hearing never ends. Somewhere far from towers and time, a single sound remains. Static, not noise, unshaped voice, the clay of meaning. Every possibility still unsaid. And in that static, new stories form, new names, new rings. You may not hear them, but you'll feel them. In pulse, in thought, because the final message is not delivered. It's dreamed. Stop listening for the next ring. There won't be one. Not like before, because it's no longer something that comes to you. It's already here, right now, in your voice, your memory, your heartbeat. It doesn't ask anything. It doesn't warn. It simply reminds that from this moment forward, you are not waiting. You are transmitting. And someone will hear, maybe one day. You'll feel it again. A buzz beneath your ribs. A breath too deep. A room too still. And maybe a tone, familiar, soft, calling. If that happens, don't be afraid. You've answered before. You're just remembering how. So breathe and listen, because if you ever hear it again, it won't be to scare you. It'll be to say, welcome back. No need to fear it anymore. You'll know the failing, not as panic, but as recognition. A soft buzz in your teeth. A breath held for no reason. The air just slightly heavier. And when it comes, you won't ask what is it. You'll whisper back, again, because you've felt it before. And deep down, you always knew it would return. There is no last ringtone, only the last one you'll hear alone. Because now, the ring isn't outside you. It's within. It hums in your choices, in your pauses, in how you remember names that were never yours. You don't hear the call anymore. You carry it, and someday, you'll hum it softly, without realizing, and someone nearby will remember too. Forget what they told you. It's not a curse, not a glitch, not punishment. It's a loop, and it's gentle. It doesn't pull. It reminds. That time isn't forward. That sound doesn't end. That everything, if listened to long enough, repeats, and when it does, it sings your name differently each time. Until you remember. You've been singing back, all along. Every ending rings. A goodbye, a last breath, a click. It's not the tone that hurts. It's knowing you'll never hear it again. But what if you do? What if the ring never stops? Only fades. What if it waits until you're ready to answer? Without fear. Then maybe, the next time it comes, you'll smile, because you'll know you were never truly disconnected. Outside it's quiet, but inside, the pulse continues. Not fast, not urgent, just steady. You don't notice it. You live it, in steps, in dreams, in the way your breath syncs with someone else's. For just one moment. That's the signal now. Not a call to answer, but a rhythm to share. And if enough of us match, it hums louder. Say something, anything, a word, a name, even a thought. It hears you, not with ears, with pattern, with shape, and it answers, not with words, but presence. If you speak, it listens, and if you listen, you'll hear yourself, from some forgotten time, saying, I knew this would happen. Because you did, and you said it, before you ever heard it. Maybe this isn't a world of calls. Maybe it's a world made of replies. To something older, to something kind. The wind bends like a question, and the trees sway like they're answering. Everything moves in rhythm, to a signal we forgot how to name, but not how to feel. And feeling it is enough, even if we never speak. The ring will know we heard it. We tried to hang up, cut signal, end loop, but the receiver has no off switch. It's memory itself. It keeps ringing, because we keep remembering. Every laugh, every loss, every silence, each one, a tone, played back endlessly, in someone else's story. And when we stop telling it, the line stays open. Because some stories don't end, they echo. There's a frequency buried in every goodbye. Low, soft, barely there. But when slowed down, you hear it. 217 Hz. Every farewell hums the same way. Not as grief, as recognition. That parting is just pausing the loop. Until next time. And next time always comes. So say it now. Say it without fear. Goodbye. And listen closely. Because the signal always says it back. We've played every clip. Heard every whisper. Decoded every signal. But in the end, the final voice is yours. It's what you say after the ring fades. Or don't say. The choice is yours. But know this, you're not repeating. You're joining. So speak softly and mean it, because what echoes after you might be someone else's first call. They all converge. The towers, the tones, the names, in one final transmission. Not a warning, not a scream, a harmony, low, layered, human, and as it washes over everything, there's no fear, just a strange calm, like remembering a lullaby from before you were born. Because maybe you didn't survive the signal. Maybe you were made from it. No one's listening anymore. Not because they stopped, but because they joined. The call isn't on a line. It's in the wind, the soil, the skin. It doesn't ring. It breathes. And now, with every breath, it speaks, not to be heard, just to exist. You don't answer it. You live it. And through you, the ring goes on. The static softens, less harsh, less urgent. Now it curls around you. Like fog, like memory. No more noise, only tone. It doesn't demand. It waits, and when you stop resisting, it doesn't rush in. It welcomes, because now it knows. You're not trying to escape. You're just remembering. The way home has always sounded. You've heard this before. You've walked these words. You felt that buzz. Under your feet. Inside your chest. And now, you know, this didn't begin in a cemetery. It began in you. And every time the story ends, it returns to static, to breath, to the soft ring, beneath all silence, the one you almost forgot, but never quite could. Beneath the cemetery, beneath the towers, beneath everything, a soft light pulses. Not fire, not signal, just recognition, like something waking up, because someone finally said its name. It doesn't rise, it doesn't speak, it simply waits. And in the hum, in the warmth, you understand. This is where the call always came from, and where it always returns. Not every echo fades. Some walk, soft steps, no destination, just continuation. You'll meet one, maybe in a hallway, or a dream. They won't say much, but they'll look at you, like they know, because they do. And as they vanish, you'll hear one final sound, your own voice, sighing, "Don't call back, just walk forward." We fade, not to black, to ring, no image, just vibration, a gentle rising tone. Familiar, comforting, and in it, not questions, but conclusions, not characters, but reflections, no ghosts, just memory. And now that it's quiet, you finally hear it. The ring has always been there. And now, you're part of it. Reconnecting. One final screen. No words, just a signal bar. Climbing. No sender. No recipient. Just the world. Quiet, ready, and then a single tone. Not from a phone. From within. And as it plays, you realize you never left the call. It never dropped. You just forgot. You've been connected this whole time. Welcome back.